Wilson Morales from Black Film and TV. Hello, Sophie. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Wilson?
Good. So this is the longest series you've done in your career, if I'm correct. What went into saying yes to taking on this project?
Oh, I just love the character. It was so fun, and she just gets to have some really great lines, and what's not to love.
So talk to me about Caroline. Obviously, when you look at the characters that we see on the series, she's in the beginning, the most resigned, above it all, in charge of it all, who's running the show while everybody else kind of runs amok. How else would you describe her?
Well, I think she's not all she seems. I think she presents, like in the PR world, she presents a kind of persona that is her Caroline boss in charge of this incredibly successful PR company, and she makes herself a very kind of class act. But I think you'll see later on, maybe not quite straight away, that she's not all she appears. Her background is perhaps not quite as grand as she says.
Yeah, one could assume that to be where she's at, she had to start off where the other characters were, from an intern to to being part of a soldier to running it to now okay, now I'm in charge.
Yeah, and also that's why I think she's she really had this thing for Robyn, because she sees herself in Robyn quite a lot. When she was younger, that kind of that chaos, I think she recognizes it. So.
Mm-hmm. As an actor who's been working for over 20 years, and you've had publicists and you've had managers, but when you have a publicist, sometimes you don't know their world. How much of an insight did you have coming into the series, and then having a much appreciation now for publicists to what they have to go through?
I didn't I don't really think I've ever dealt with a publicist that deals with this sort of stuff, because I'm pretty straight, like in my kind of dealings with day-to-day stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'm not doing crazy stuff like these people. And never really have done. So I don't think I've really had to have that kind of crisis management kind of PR. My PR is just sort of helping me find some nice little things to do in magazines and, look after me a bit and check that I'm doing the right thing. But I haven't had to have crisis management. So it's quite different, this type of PR world. And I didn't really know anything about it. Although in England, we have some we get a lot of stories about, certain PR people in this country who have this type of clientele. And it felt like, I think he researched it and found a lot of those stories, from real life.
Well, think about it. Whenever me and Oliver is writing all of the episodes, that these stories are not just being made up. They're somewhat coming from somewhere, know. And my assumption is, hey, everybody has seen something, whether you're reading about it or you witness it, and then you say to yourself, oh, okay, and when you see that this never has been reported, then you say to yourself, okay, that person has a good team, because things that that's never been talked about. We all have to keep our secrets.
Right. And some people, you see that they've got a kind of certain thing about them, or you hear stories and it's never really been in the press, and you think, wow, yeah, they're really somehow protected. Yes, that's true.
So what did you do?
Sorry, tell me.
What did you do to get into character?
Well, I just do what I always do. I mean, when it's really well written and the script's good, you don't have to do too much. You just have to say the lines. And so I prepare by knowing what I have to say very well. And then I think about the character's life up until that point, and what might be underneath, not seen. And then I just rock up and just play. That's kind of how I do my acting. I just have I do a lot of work before I get there, and when I get there, I just sort of play.
When you look at Caroline, you're like, okay, what shenanigans is she getting into? How will she look today? Obviously, as the head of the company, you always have different outfits. So you have to
have different wigs, different. I mean, she's going for a different look depending on who she's seeing. She's got many characters, which you'll see over time. So I think she has a whole double-roomed wardrobe and a wig room.
So obviously when you're working with Oliver and he's writing all of it, what is it that throughout the episodes, when you do a TV series, obviously there's different episodes, different writers. Here is just one person doing both. So in working with Oliver, how else did he want you to portray the character in different episodes, as you mentioned, different wig, different this.
He didn't really, he just did it in the writing. We didn't talk about it that much. Maybe later on we did, but he just wrote the part, and then I did it. And if I had questions, I'd ask him, but he didn't tell me how to play it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really get into that. So I just sort of made it up myself from what he'd given me in the words. You know, she's fairly clear on the page, the type of person she is, and I just had such fun, you know, playing her.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the cast, obviously, you know, led by Anna. You know, you don't have scenes with everybody, but how was it working with this cast?
Yeah, I mean, we got to know each other because we worked together over quite a long period in the end. And oh, I just dropped something. Sorry, hold on a sec. And I feel like we all had quite a very good kind of chemistry between us. We all really hit it off, and I think everybody is very different from their characters. So it was really fun to watch everybody get into their characters, because they're all not really like their characters in real life.
You know, you obviously had you've been working, you know, you had the Netflix series, we see you in films, you know, so between the films and the TV projects you take, what goes into saying yes?
Well, it's a mixture of things. I mean, it's sometimes to do where I'm at, like at that time in my life, like what I can and can't do, where I can travel to. But it's mostly just about the character, not even so much about the whole script. If I feel that there's a character in it, even if I don't love the whole piece, that I can do something with it, or it's a challenge, then often I'm just looking at that. And then sometimes it'll be the opposite. I think the character they've offered me isn't so great, but I love the whole piece so much, or I want to work with that actor, I want to work with that director. So every time it's different. But on the whole, if I had to say there's one thing that draws me, it's story. Yeah, story, usually. It's a story that I want to be involved with. But there are many reasons for doing things. You know, right now I'm looking forward to when we can travel again. So I think I would take a project that took me somewhere interesting to go to.
That's what I was gonna lead to. Like now, because of the way we all been living, you know,
wow.
You know, what's gonna tickle your fancy to say, okay, I'll travel for this, or I'll stay home and do that.
Yeah, New Zealand would be nice. You know, like there's like a lot of things. I mean, I am working at the moment, believe it or not. I'm still managing to film a television series in this lockdown, and it's so refreshing. It's so, you really appreciate your job that you can carry on and do it, because the theatre, which is my other big part of my life, is not happening at all. And my theatre buddies, it's really tough. So I feel very blessed that I can be still being creative and filming every day, and somehow our wonderful producer on the job I'm doing now is managing to, we're somehow safely filming, you know, and using all the protocols and carrying on with it. It's taking longer than normal, but that's okay.
It's kind of funny. You said lockdown, and there's a film coming out tomorrow called Lockdown, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor. You know, and I remember you guys. I remember when I first became introduced to you was in 30 Pretty Things.
Yeah. And we worked together a couple of times since then, and you know, and I'm still friends with him. So yeah. We worked together after that. We did another TV series called Tsunami for HBO.
Yes, I remember that one. You know, so you've worked a long time, and obviously because of this whole pandemic, everybody's got different views on how to work. But you still have series coming up. Obviously, this is one of them. You know, with so much programming nowadays, including movies that's now playing on streaming channels, what's the sell to seeing this show? You know, because everybody either wants to get their fix in terms of weekly, all at once, maybe one at a time. You know, when you're talking about this series, you know, and nobody knows who you are, you're trying to tell somebody whether you're standing in line at Starbucks or not. There's a series coming out called Flack. What's the sell into seeing it?
Oh, I think that it's definitely got a kind of serious element to it, which is very poignant, but it's also rip-roaringly funny. I mean, from just all the characters, I think every character is so naughty and so rude that I think people will quite enjoy just seeing the kind of crazy things that my clients get up to.
Is there a role that you'd like to do that you haven't done yet? You know, that you like, where you want to go crazy and like, you know what, I want to play the badass, the villain, or, you know, the superhero, the sci-fi, whatever.
in Ratchet, I got to do a lot of those things all in one character because I played 5 different characters. So I was very lucky doing that. I've played some amazing roles already, but there's lots of roles I'd like to do. I mean, lots of classical plays I still like to do, classic roles I'd like to do. I mean, just endless. You know, I've never done like a big sort of sci-fi type thing. That would be really fun, as long as I could play the baddie. I think I only really work when I play the baddie. I don't want to play the heroine. I just want to play the bad person.
You never know what's gonna tickle some people's fancy. You know, what do you miss more doing? Film, TV, or theater? You're doing TV now, but what about the theater world? When it decides.
I miss doing that. That's, you know, as soon as that's back up and running, I will surely do a play. I tend to do a play most years, so at some point, I will do a play probably this year at some point. Hopefully, everything just, you know, once the vaccination gets rolled out and people get safer to be around, I'll be back in the theater. Yeah.
You can never stop learning as an actor, you know, and so when you're working on different projects, whether it be the director or other actors, is there anything new you learn from each project that you take on to your next project?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Every time there's something new or different that I hadn't really come across, or just ways of working. And also sometimes little elements in one character I find quite useful for another character later on. You know, I recycle. I'm very eco-friendly with my characters. I recycle bits and pieces of them all the time, you know. So yeah, I'm constantly learning. I never really stay still. I don't have any particular technique, as in I always do this or I always do that. You know, like some actors have very a particular method, and I don't have that. I am free flow.
Mm-hmm. Before I let you go, where do we see you next after this series?
The next thing I've got coming. Well, I was having Death on the Nile come out, but that's now been postponed as a movie. So that's now been postponed until September. So that was going to be out now. So and then I've got a series called Britannia, which I don't know if it's on in America. So it's a series on Sky Television here. So.
Yes, I'm not sure which season. Are you season 2 or 3 or?
3, yeah. So yeah. So
yeah,
I did that. I did Wheel of Time as well. I don't know when that's coming out. That's for Amazon. You know,
that's a good thing. Is that like you got projects that are out yet? So whether it comes out tomorrow, 6 months from now, or a year from now, to the worst of the world, oh, that girl's working.
I'm always working. I'm very lucky, but you know, I'm not worried about that's not my business. My business is to get on and do the part as well as I can. Everything else happens around it. That's scheduling. It's not really anything to do with me, and I have no control over it. So I just gotta let it go, and I just turn up for the press junkets when they need me. So you know.
Hey, you did well on this one. Obviously, that's good to see you. We'll see you in 12 episodes. We'll see you in your next project. It's always good talking to you. We'll talk down the road on your next project. So have a great day. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
Bye.